Hey, how's it going? I'm Jeremy. Welcome to my channel, Freedom of Expression. I wanted to talk about What If from Marvel Studios. It's an animated TV show that they're doing. It's just a small series. There'll probably be about half a dozen of them. I'm going to do spoilers on episode 2. If you haven't seen it, then you may not want to watch. If I could take it back, though, I would, because the episode is just absolute trash and garbage. They had such a good opportunity to make something good here that was just wasted. I hear this, that there's a culture war going on. And I guess to some degree there is. I think there always has been. There are always people who are counterculture, and I don't think that that's good. Culture should change and evolve. It should become something that's better. But that's not quite the same as counterculture, at least not the way that I perceive it. Counterculture is more of what the far left does today, such as Antifa, where they just want to destroy and get rid of everything. And it's like, no, you can't do that. And that's because if you did, then you wouldn't be able to do anything. You wouldn't be able to drive, for example. Culture is something that we've all agreed upon on a way of doing something. So take driving, for example. We are in these huge, massive machines of rubber, glass, and steel that we travel at high rates of speed surrounded by complete strangers, because in American culture we've decided that this is what you do. When you see these signs, when you come to stop signs or lights, we know what to do. And we don't have to get to know every other single driver in order to feel safe. And if you do something just as small as weave back and forth in the lane, if you do that long enough, or if you do it past a cop, they're going to pull you over. And the first thing that people are going to think, that person's drunk. It's effective and it's efficient with what we have. Doesn't mean that it's perfect. We could do better. And it has absolutely nothing to do with race. We want to be able to get things done. But there are people out there that they think that for whatever reason, and I think a lot of them are drifters, some people who do absolutely believe it, but they seem to think that because of your skin color, your race, sexual preference, or your gender or something, that you're magically better or worse. It's like, no, that's not it. This is an example of it. This what if trash that's being produced by Marvel, where in this episode, it's Chad Boswick's character, I forget his name, Black Panther, Wakanda, from Wakanda. Oh, I forget his name, the character's name. But what if he got abducted and became Star-Lord is the premise of this. And it's just god-awful, horrible. It was a waste of my life. I wish I could take that time back to do anything else besides watch this stupid episode. Before we get into it, though, if you're fed up with the culture war because these people are just lying and you want a system based off of truth, give this video a like, give it a subscribe, give it a thumbs up. I also have Patreon and Subscribestar. This thing is just... It starts off real good. With the opening, there is this character called the Watcher. He's been around with Marvel. I don't know too much about him. I wasn't too big into all of this, but I know that he does kind of what his name is, and he watches. And the opening's really great. I really like whoever they got to voice the character. Sounds great. The narrator is just perfect for that role, and the setup that he gives, great. Hey, yeah, what if? An example of this, that they've done this in other comics, such as with X-Men. So another one that they had was the Age of Apocalypse. And this is where it's a what if thing too. And somebody, I think, went back in time and killed Professor Xavier. And so it created this alternate present reality where Apocalypse was not saved, or he wasn't beaten, and he was allowed to take over not all the world. I think there was a resistance over in Europe, at least. But Apocalypse, he had North America. I don't know. It was a couple of decades ago, and it was about the time whenever I got out of comics. But Apocalypse basically rules, and the characters that were evil before, some of them are actually good, and vice versa. So, like Magneto, actually, in this timeline, is the leader of the X-Men. They've been beaten and torn up. Beastman was evil. Cyclops, I think, was evil. There was a few of them. And it made for an interesting story because you got to see your characters in a different way and different choices, different circumstances, different. Everything was different. That's not what happens with this. It's just one thing that happens. In this case, instead of picking up, Star-Lord, what's his name? Chris Pratt's character, Peter Quill. Instead of picking him up, they pick up Shahala, whatever his name is, Chaz Boswick's character instead. The kid's 10, and he's just outside of the little force field thing, and he just leaves with him, and it makes no sense. Whenever Peter Quill gets abducted, he's not asked if he wants to go. His mother just died, so he's a little more willing to kind of go to kind of integrate it, to become a part of the crew. For some reason, Chaz Boswick's character just leaves. He doesn't give a second thought to his friends or family at all. He had good relationships with them all. So even at 10 years old, whenever he leaves, he's uncommonly brave for a child. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but maybe if Black Lives Matter has any say, then that's all that you need. It's like, and it's not to say that he couldn't have been brave, but you should at least attempt to explain why. Here's an example. They do talk about how Baba, I think that's what he calls him, his father, is the king, and he wants to go and he wants to leave the protection of Wakanda. He wants to see the rest of the world. And his father says, no, they only know of violence and hatred and death. They don't understand our ways. It's like, okay, well, that's good. What are those ways? Well, what are you doing that's so much better than everyone else? And they could have gone on to explain, well, we've just found this balance where we went through a lot of wars and we saw this opportunity to segregate ourselves from everyone else, and we saw the other countries of Africa never prosper because all they did was fight all the time. Just this constant warring and struggling that was going on. And they never stopped. And they never built up. And they didn't try to better themselves. But in Wakanda they did. And so they could have taken that and ran with this story. And I'll continue to run with it through this narrative that I'm going to give. Then it kind of fast forwards into the future a little bit, where now he's older and he's picking up that Infinity Stone through that little force field thing. He meets, I don't know the guy's name, he's kind of a lesser evil character in it all. He's an enemy, but he ends up just loving Star-Lord. Doesn't explain why. I mean, well, he gives from the powerful and gives to the weak. And Well, why would this guy love him for doing that? What would he care? Gives no reason for this whatsoever. The guy's a villain, but yet for some reason he loves Star-Lord. It's like, well, you could explain it, but they don't. Because apparently being black is enough. Because I don't know what else to phrase this as. Then he fights them. And he doesn't even break a sweat. He's just barely moving, barely dodging this. No problems. You also learn during this that the Ravengers have gone good, where they're no longer pirates and stealing and robbing and selling for the highest bidder, whatever trinket is that they have. It's, oh, well, now we're going to go out and do good in the world or the universe. For some reason, they don't explain why. They say, well, it's just better. Why? Yondo has been doing this for who knows how many years. And now he just quits? Because of a 10-year-old boy? What? What are you talking about? You know, at least they should have had kidnapped him whenever he was older, so then that way he could have been more articulate. Because if you try to explain it, and this is it. Because he left home at 10. How is he going to persuade anyone's mind? It's like, how much can a 10-year-old know? During this encounter where he's stealing one of the Infinity Stones, one of his rivals that he meets here, who just immediately admires him, says, "Oh, you're so humble. Should I call you Lord or something like that?" And he says, "No, I actually don't like it. It kind of doesn't set with me very well." And it's like, well, that makes no sense at all. It's your name. You can change it. It's not even your name, your original name. It's a secondary made-up name, Star-Lord. Your name is Chakanda or whatever it is. It's like, you took on the name Star-Lord. Why are you still using it? You could just drop the Lord and just say Star Guy or something. I don't know. I mean, just whatever. He doesn't have to keep using it. So he doesn't like it, but yet he uses it. This is a what if. You can change it. Fast forward a little bit, and the enemy guy who's kind of happy to see him, and he's like, "Oh, I've heard so much about you. I'm such an admirer." He gets knocked out. Star-Lord takes him. You end up at a bar. He's like, "Well, whatever happened to Thanos?" They get into a discussion about him, and guess what? There's Thanos. Why the hell is Thanos there? Because apparently he talked to Star-Lord, and now he's a good guy. He changed his ways. Talked about what? Now, here's the real problem with this. And so what we have here is the Eros asteroid. It is technically 433 Eros, an asteroid NASA investigated contains more gold than ever extracted on Earth. The total amount of gold on Earth is calculated to be, what is that, 3 trillion? No, it's more than that. Whatever's beyond trillion, quadrillion. This is excluding all the stuff held in private collections and any fabled Aztec lost cities of gold. And so Quora here, where you can ask questions and get answers. Chris Sizemore, former CEO and Automated Positioning Systems from 2009 to 2002. It's one of the largest near-Earth objects. Its mass is 6.7 trillion tons. Studied in 2001. Did measure for gold content, but did make these spectacular studies. Concluded that the asteroid had the same composition as meteorites that had fallen to Earth, and that it contained that parts of it, these chondrites, can contain as much as 0.1 parts per million of gold. Platinum and gold in meteorites. If Eros contained as much, then it would hold 570,000 tons of gold in total. But it still has, so it's not quite that much, but it still has a lot. And if you were to bring if you were to bring this asteroid to Earth and we were to mine it, because we had it up in our asteroid, or up in our atmosphere, it would drastically drop the price of gold. It would be like the price of, well, I guess not dirt, but maybe copper. It just would be worthless because there would be so much of it. So what does this mean? This is one asteroid. And you find this is a star-sized comparison chart of outer space. So here you have the moon and the Earth. And then here's the other planets: Venus, Mars, Mercury. Then here you have Earth. It's gotten smaller, but compared to Uranus and Neptune, it is small. Well, you compare it to Saturn and Jupiter, it gets even smaller over here with Earth. Here's the Sun. The Earth is barely more than a dot right now. Sirius is another star. Now Earth is a dot, and the Sun looks small compared to it. And so all the rest of these are just stars. Pollux, probably saying that wrong. Earth is, it says here, is about 1 pixel at this scale. The Sun looks mighty small. So here's Arcturus. Earth is invisible at this scale. Jupiter is about 2 pixels in size. And we just keep going larger and larger. Then we have Rigel, Aldebaran, Betelgeuse, whatever. And all these suns, I mean, our sun is out of the picture. And it keeps going, and it keeps going until, which one do we have here? That's the largest. The binary stars, VV Cephei. So binary stars, actually, they know that most of the stars in the solar system are binary. It's kind of weird that we don't have one. It's kind of an anomaly that you don't. There's actually a name for our binary star, which is Nemesis. Yeah, so here it is from Wikipedia. I'll read it here. Nemesis is a hypothetical red dwarf. In other words, it's just a guesstimate, they're not sure. Or brown dwarf, originally pulsated in 1984 to be orbiting the sun at a distance of 1.5 light years, somewhat beyond the Oort cloud, to explain a perceived cycle of mass extinctions in the geological record. Or at least I thought it was just a guess. I didn't think that they'd actually found anything that said that this was accurate. But they suggest, or yeah, right here, yeah, more recent theories suggest that other forces, like close passages of other stars, they kind of guess about it. And they say that this is what's been causing the mass extinction events on Earth, is that whenever the Nemesis star gets really close to Earth, it kind of burns everything to where almost all life is gone, and then it kind of starts over, and that this is what killed the dinosaurs, for example. And there's been like, I don't know, a dozen mass event extinction level occurrences that have happened on Earth. And they want to say that it's this hypothetical star because it happens like clockwork, that it happens at the same time. So how can you say it's something like an asteroid that hits the Earth whenever it keeps happening like every 100 million years, or however long that it happens. If it's happening every 100 million years, then it's not just a stray comet. It's something that's got some kind of pattern to it. So they have this as a reason for it. But with all of these stars out here, the universe is huge. And so the problem with Thanos' plan of that there aren't enough resources out there to be able to sustain life is absolutely wrong. This is one asteroid, Eros asteroid, that's got enough gold and wealth in it that we could do a lot with gold. We have how much stuff that's made out of copper that we could start producing all of these things made out of gold and platinum. This is from one asteroid, and this thing is microscopic. And so Star-Lord could have said, well, why don't we actually solve your problem and let's figure out ways to innovate. This is what we did in Wakanda, and we found a balance, because if you just go off and you kill half the planet and they didn't figure out how to solve their problems, then they're just going to go right back to what it is that they did. They're going to go back to overpopulation, because they're still doing the same things that they've always done. They didn't improve their ability to grow more crops because you didn't introduce any new technology so that they could do more. And it's kind of weird, because they do talk about how their mission for this episode is to find this special mineral or seeds or whatever it is, that it's going to be able to save the universe. Because just a few fragments of this thing can make a planet grow vegetation that will just feed all of these populations that are surrounding it. And they're going to be able to do it for everyone everywhere. Well, that's extremely convenient, and it doesn't make for a good story. You know why? Because nobody cares. Everyone knows that, you know what, all these things don't fall in your lap. That doesn't happen. Money just doesn't fall out of the sky. Having a good body just doesn't magically happen. You have to put work into it. You're going to fail constantly. It's a big problem with these participation trophies. It's like you're robbing children of a great learning experience. You are going to fail constantly in life. It's not about winning. It's about being a good sport, and that whenever you lose, that you don't give up, that you get up and you try again, or you do something else, but you just, because that's not life. Whenever you go for a job interview, there's going to be a whole lot of people who are going to go to that job interview, and only one person is going to get that job. Just because you didn't get that job, that doesn't mean that you quit. You're going to date several people. You're going to have breakups, and just because you have a breakup, that doesn't mean that you stop dating. There are going to be people that are going to get sick, they're going to die, who you know, and that doesn't mean that you give up on life. You're going to have accidents of every single kind imaginable, because that's just human nature. That's just the way that the world is. And you don't get a participation trophy for it. It's like, no, you learn to be a good sport. And it's just pathetic. Kids can do this. They go out, they play a game, and win or lose, both teams march off to that field, and they say, good game. And then you come back and you try again, and you do even better for next season. And you don't get a trophy for it, because that's not what it's about. It's not about winning. It's about keep going on. If you ever watch these people talk about who are really successful in life, like within business, they'll tell you how they just failed constantly. It was just one failure after another, but they didn't stop. They didn't give up. They just kept going with it because it's what they believed in, it's what they wanted to do, it's what they enjoyed. There was something about it that kept them going. And it wasn't getting participation trophies. And these kids are being robbed of it. These kids are going to be so helpless and worthless whenever they become adults. And these kids are going to be taking care of us whenever we're old and decrepit. And they're going to want a little trophy for doing every stupid little thing under the sun. And they need a kick in the butt. But for Star-Lord, man, Thanos, not only did he stop Thanos, but now Thanos works for him. He also saves Drax's planet. Because now the Ravengers, I mean, they stopped their piracy for who knows what reason other than, well, we just talked about it. Okay. Nebula is a close personal friend of his, too. They find out that the Collector has this special little seed ingredient that you can use to have life spring to all of these planets, and then you can feed the whole universe with it. And everyone is fearful of the Collector. Oh, well, not everyone, except for one person. Guess who that is? Star-Lord! Why shouldn't he be afraid? Everyone is afraid. Captain America and Iron Man. Iron Man is a great example. He's scared like mad. It's why he built that Iron Man suit. He wants to build an iron suit around the world to help protect everyone from Thanos. He's terrified. It's not that they don't, these heroes, it's not that they don't live without fear. It's that they learn to conquer it. They're not sheltered from it. They don't say, go hide in a cave. They say, face your worst fears. It's these characteristics that these heroes have that make them so great. You can find all these examples of Superman where there are these heroes that they can fly and they have heat vision and they can do all the things that Superman can. Some of them are bad. Some of them are just horrible characters. And it's because they're nothing. They don't have an interesting story to them. It's not the powers that make them great. And it's not everything that falls into their lap like magic that makes them great. And that's why whenever you watch these really good movies, it's because they have good touching scenes. And so you can watch like these people who do these reactions for the first time that they watch this stuff. It's why you get a reaction out of them. And so like Peter Quill here, it's not because everything went his way. That's not what made it such a good movie. It's because he had hard times. His mother died of cancer, and then here's this.
Oh, I can't believe he lost two fathers in one movie. Oh my god, that tissues!
Because it's heartbreaking. It's not that everything just goes wonderful, but this is what people are. And so here is the quartering, and it's titled Disney Blasts Mediocre White Men with a New What If series, Absolute Meltdown Over Race Swap. And he talks about this, and here's some Twitter dude, whoever made this needs to get arrested, and this is Black Panther who's been race swapped into a white person. And you can watch this video, and he talks about how, well, Black Panther actually started off as a white person, and he's been a white person many times, and this image that he's pulled up right here is like 3 years old. He's talking about, well, you know, they shouldn't have done this for the What If series. This isn't the What If series. He doesn't know what he's talking about at all. And being white or black has absolutely nothing with you being good or bad. It's what you do with the decisions that are placed before you as you go through life. You know, whenever you see a good movie, I like watching these little reaction videos because it's funny. I don't always meet up with their reactions. Some of these people have different reactions than others. And so here's another one. This is from the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and here's another reaction video of another young person here getting all worked up.
Oh crap!
You'll die in seconds!
Oh, he's shielding her.
It's heartfelt moments. It's not just raining sunshine and glory. No, that's what made Peter Quill a hero and a good guy. It's because he had these difficult choices to make. And this one right here, he had a choice. I can keep the mask on and I can save myself, or I can put it on Gamora and I can save her. That doesn't happen with this stupid what if. Everything works out. Everything goes perfectly. There's no temptation. There's no struggle. There's no loss. There's nothing. And it's so pathetic because they could have had all that. They could have said, you know what? His father had all these great lessons for the Black Panther, and he got these lessons from his father because these are the lessons that they took from the history of Wakanda that made it such a prosperous place. And then he could have fought with these people, not just rolling over like a dog, showing their bellies. It's like, oh yeah, what was I thinking? It's like Thanos did all this stuff because his world fell to chaos, and he came up with this plan of genociding half the planet so that the other half could survive. But it took one conversation to change his mind whenever he'd been doing this already for years. I mean, how did he even get to talk to Thanos in the first place? And a lot of it doesn't make sense either. It's like now Thanos is a wuss because he goes to fight his Black Guard people that he had that were like his elite guard. Now apparently he can't beat up any of them. It's like whenever he was clearly a supreme guy. It makes no sense. It's trash. I hate this crap that just because you're black or you're gay or you're a woman, you're just perfect. It's like, no. What makes you a good person is what do you do when things don't go your way. It's easy to be loving and caring and a good person whenever everything around you is going fine. That doesn't mean jack. How are you when the chips are down? Where are you whenever people really need you? Whenever things are not obvious? Whenever you're presented with a situation where I can do some good, but it goes against my personal values. You know, an example of this would be like Batman. It's like, well, the Joker is evil, and I could really destroy him by killing him, and there's no more. But that goes against his morals. Batman isn't great because of all the gadgets in the Batcave. I mean, it helps. But what's really good is the decisions that he makes. Why does he make those decisions? What makes him a cut above the rest? And it's because of the way that he lives his life. And they could do that for anyone. They could put that, they could inject that into all these what ifs. What a great opportunity. It was the same thing with the first episode where Agent Carter became Captain America or Captain Britain in that version. Same thing. Everything just magically worked out for her. She didn't have to make any hard decisions. It was clear. It was very black and white. These are the good guys. These are the good things to do. These are the bad guys. They're doing bad things. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. It was boring as hell. It didn't make me think about anything. There was nothing memorable about it at all. It was trash. So if you hate these weak storylines, if you don't like the stupidity that you're just magically good because of these factors that you have no control over, that you can't change, which is something else. It's like, I can't change my skin to be black. Maybe there's a way, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to try to change sexes either. I'm not going to attain for these things that you cannot change. You cannot change my X and Y chromosomes. I will never have a uterus, and I will never be able to give birth to a child. I can't change these things, but I can change the way that I deal with the world, that I handle my life by having better values than what I might have right now. So if you understand this and you want something better, give this video a like, give it a thumbs up. I hope that you learned something. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you again later. Bye.